这个故事如果你听起来不累，那么你的听力水平在生活中是完全够用的。要持续提升英文，记得点击订阅按钮。我们开始吧。
The night the lights went out, someone had to foot the bill. In a small town by the river, long before cars filled the streets, people gathered at a wooden inn with a wide porch and a warm fire inside. The inn stood near the market square. Farmers came in with muddy boots. Sailors came up from the dock with wet coats. Travelers with dust on their hats pushed open the heavy door and stepped into the smell of bread and stew. The owner, a tall man with sharp eyes and a quiet smile, kept a thick book behind the counter. In that book, he wrote down every plate of food, every mug of ale, every slice of pie. He did not ask for money right away. In those days, coins were not always in a man's pocket. A good name meant more than silver. So he would nod, serve the meal, and say, "We will settle it later." Most nights were loud and bright. Laughter rolled across the room like waves. Fiddles played fast tunes. Cards slapped on tables. Men told stories about storms at sea and long days in the field. When the candles burned low, the owner would bring out more. He paid for those candles. He paid for the wood that fed the fire. He paid for the meat and grain that filled each plate. One cold winter evening, the town held a feast to celebrate a fine harvest. Long tables were set from one wall to the other. Roasted chicken, thick bread, and sweet cakes covered the boards. The inn had never seen such a crowd. People ate and drank as if the night would never end. As the hours passed, voices grew louder. A young sailor stood on a chair and sang. A farmer answered with a joke that made even the quiet school teacher laugh. Coins clinked here and there, but not many. Most people waved their hands and said they would pay next week, after they sold more crops or finished a job at the dock. Near midnight, the wind rose outside. It howled through the cracks in the walls. A strong gust pushed open a window, and one candle fell. The flame caught a dry curtain. In a breath, the cloth burned bright orange. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then a woman shouted. Chairs crashed to the floor. Water was thrown. Boots stamped on sparks. The fire was put out before it could swallow the room, but the curtain was gone. Smoke stained the wall black. The feast ended in a rush of fear. When the smoke cleared, the inn was quiet. The crowd slipped away into the dark street. They pulled on coats and hats, promising to return in the morning. The owner stood alone in the dim light. He looked at the black wall, the broken window, the empty plates. The book behind the counter lay open, full of names and numbers. The next day, he walked through town with that heavy book under his arm. He stopped at each house. He knocked on each door. Some people paid at once. Shame on their faces. Some said they had no coins yet. A few turned him away, saying the fire was not their fault. By the end of the week, the owner had paid the carpenter to fix the window. He had bought new cloth for the curtain. He had cleaned the soot from the wall. The feast had been grand, but the cost was larger than anyone had guessed. At the dock, two sailors talked about the night. One said, "He is the one who must foot the bill." The other nodded. They both looked at their boots when the owner walked past. The words were simple. To foot once meant to add up a column of numbers at the bottom of a page. The total sat at the foot of the bill, the last line that could not be ignored. To foot the bill was to stand at that last line and pay what was due, even when the party was over and the music had stopped. The phrase spread beyond the town. Traders carried it to other ports. Stage actors used it in plays. Shopkeepers said it when a child broke a jar. Parents said it when a window cracked from a wild ball. The words held a clear picture. Someone enjoys the meal. Someone laughs at the table. Someone else counts the cost when the chairs are stacked and the room is empty. Years passed. The inn grew older. New paint covered the walls. The market square changed. Horses gave way to carts with iron wheels, then to engines that hummed. The owner grew gray. His son learned to keep the book. He wrote down each meal in careful lines, just like his father. One summer, a group of young workers came into the inn after a long day building a bridge across the river. They were proud of their work. They ordered more food than usual. They clapped each other on the back. They promised to pay when their wages came at the end of the month. A storm hit before the bridge was done. The river rose high and tore down part of their work. The company that hired them lost money and closed its doors. The young workers did not get their pay. The son of the old owner sat at the counter with the book open. The pages showed a long list under the names of those workers. He felt anger rise in his chest. The inn had bills of its own. The baker wanted money for flour. The wood seller wanted payment for logs. One evening, the workers came in, hats in hand. They did not laugh this time. They spoke in low voices. They said they were sorry. They said they would find new jobs and return with coins. The son looked at their tired faces. He remembered the story of the fire and the black wall. He remembered his father walking from door to door. He closed the book and said, "Eat. We will settle it when you can." His wife pulled him aside later. She asked how they would manage. He took a slow breath and said, "We will foot the bill for now." That choice was not easy. They had to cut back. They used fewer candles at night. They served simpler meals. They worked longer hours. Yet word spread in the town about their kindness. When the bridge was built again, the workers came back with full wages. They paid every coin they owed, and more. The inn did not fall. It stood stronger. Foot the bill is not only about money. It is about weight. It is about the moment when fun turns into cost, when a choice asks for a price. Sometimes the bill is small, like a broken cup. Sometimes it is heavy, like a burned curtain or a lost job. In your own life, there are nights of bright laughter and long tables. There are choices made in heat and joy. Later, there is a quiet room and a line at the bottom of the page. You may be the one who has to stand there. You may have to count the numbers and face what is owed. When that time comes, you can turn away, or you can step forward and foot the bill. That step, hard as it feels, builds trust. It writes your name in a book no fire can burn. And long after the music fades, people remember who stayed to pay when the lights went out.
能以非母语者的身份专注学习到现在，这本身就是很棒的进步。真诚感谢你的观看。如果你觉得本期内容实用，点赞或留言让我知道你的想法，这对我持续创作非常重要。我们下期见。